and welcome to the June episode of the Nightmares to Miracles podcast. I am Brittany Van Rees, and I'm here with Dr. Dave Asomaning, an executive coach and miracle mindset expert. And together, we are going to give you guys more content on miracle mindsets and how we can cultivate them in regards to our theme for 2026, which is peace. And we do a different theme every year. So peace is our theme for this year, and there's no shortage of peace information in A Course in Miracles. There's tons that we could draw from. And today, Dave has an awesome little excerpt planned for us. Sometimes they're lessons from the book A Course in Miracles, and sometimes it's from the other text, the supplementary text. So today, we're going to focus on some of the texts. And before that, we have some preliminaries that we like to do every single episode. We always have a lot of fun with this, so feel free to skip forward if you've already heard the spiels. But today, Dave has a new story from his his origin story, if you will. So let's hear that. And Dave, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do and how we got here today?
All right, Brittany, welcome. Good to see you. Good to be with you on this June 2026 podcast episode. And thanks to all our viewers and listeners and readers. We're glad you're with us. We take great delight in your comments and your reactions, whether they're in person or through the different channels that you're able to reach us, texting and posting directly to the material that we have up there. So excellent. Yeah. So thanks for the intro as well, Brittany. So an executive coach, although ChatGPT is encouraging me to think of myself as a senior level advisor more and more, and to relax on the coaching because it's a little bit more systematized. And, I'm not ready to completely let that go yet, but I'm talking with ChatGPT about it. We're having some conversations. So in any case, executive coach, and essentially what I think I do the best is combine miracle mindset work, of which, as you were alluding to, Brittany, there's a lot of material on, with ultra high net worth executive coaching for senior people in different companies or on their own or what have you. And again, we have our 4 areas. You'll see this right at the beginning of the podcast that you put out for us on YouTube. If you watch the videos, we've got these 4 dimensions: health, wealth, love, and enlightenment, right? And across each of these dimensions, there's a powerful mindset work around miracles that we can do. So that's typically what I'm doing. It's like, and one of the consistent sort of experiences I have with my clients, whom I delight in and love to work with in the ultra high net worth environment, is that they, just to put it directly without impugning them or characterizing them in any kind of bad light, is that it's hard to relax. After you've been in the process of climbing the mountain for so long to make this successful company and all that goes along with it, and the income and the money, by their own sort of admission, it can be hard to just let that go. So we talk about and look for ways in which it's okay to actually do even better by doing less and being less frenetic or less urgent or less intense. So again, miracle mindset. Our lesson from our topic, recent topic that we did was I need do nothing. This is a lesson that we did, and it's a very relaxing lesson. And so much of what the Course talks about is that we have already been granted everything. It's part of our birthright, and we need do nothing to earn it or get it, other than agree that it belongs to us already through the love of God. So anyway, that's the work, the executive coaching work, combining miracle mindset and the ultra high net worth stuff. And so the theme for today, in terms of the backstory, very sort of quickly and briefly, is that when I was 15 years old, going on 16, we made a trip to the United States from Ghana, West Africa, where I had been raised, for the American bicentennial, the 200th birthday of the United States, and we're coming up on the 250th birthday this July as well. But my mom and my two sisters and I left my dad in Ghana and came. My mom's American, so she definitely wanted to be here for that. We did a lot of fun things, but I became obsessed with American youth culture in a way that, I mean, it was like I was on drugs or something. And I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing drugs, but I was like, and we had LPs at the time, and you could go to your local Kroger or Gold Circle or Kmart, whatever we were doing. And I was just picking up so much music. And one of the albums at the time that was just a big hit was a double album called Frampton Comes Alive. And it was just an amazing, as somebody who was interested in the guitar and got all kinds of guitar people. But when we went back to Ghana, um, I used to put that record on my dad's hi-fi in the living room. And especially in the evening at dusk, like 6 p.m., going into 7 p.m., when it would be completely dark, I would watch the red light on the hi-fi. And then I would listen to Frampton Comes Alive, and one track in particular called Do You Feel Like I Do, or Do You Feel Like We Do? And I would just listen to that and go into a trance-like state, dreaming about going back to America, because those were the conditions my parents set. If you want to go back, you have to go to college, and it has to be all set up, and you have to do it all on your own. We're not really going to help you because you have a free ride, and everything's going to work here for you. You can go to Ghanaian University, but if you want to do this kind of outrageous, ridiculous thing, then it's all on you. So I used to just sit day after day after day meditating, and little did I know that I was practicing some of the altered states of consciousness that I would come to learn through my own journey with hypnotherapy and self-hypnosis and guided meditations and affirmations and Ho'oponopono and A Course in Miracles and all these different things that I've used for myself in a more mature, sort of seasoned, professional, quasi-professional way, and then with clients as well. So in any case, I'm just the power of music and that hi-fi in the dark with the red light. It was like, I mean, how did it just felt good. That's the reason I stumbled on it. It just felt good. It reminded me of being in the States and reminded me of being there again. So anyway, that's the anecdote from 15, 16 years of age that I wanted to share today. Any thoughts about your versions of this growing up and mind training, as we call it now, and or anything you want to say, Britt?
Yeah, I guess I think like a lot of people in my generation, I always wanted to do YouTube and things like that. So I was like obsessed with shows where the kids were kind of like starting a little podcast. There was one called iCarly,
Yeah,
and she had
yeah.
her own podcast. And now look at us podcasting. So I feel like I also kind of manifested some of my reality with some of this pop culture stuff from my youth as well. I also went to there was another show on the same network called Zoe 101, which
Okay.
happened to be filmed at Pepperdine. And
Oh,
everybody wanted to go to the school in the show. And then I actually ended up going to the university where they filmed it later on in life. So that was pretty synchronistic too.
very cool. Wow.
Yeah. In the show, it was a boarding school for little kids. But then by the time I went to college, I went to the actual university where they filmed it. So yeah. Oh,
Love it. I learned about iCarly from some young people that
really?
whose parents I knew, and they were obsessed with that, probably as much as I was with those albums, and
Yeah.
mirrors some of your interest in it too. Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. And then iCarly, and then there was Hannah Montana, Miley
Yeah.
Cyrus, right? She was a kind of a very innocent,
Pop star.
yeah,
Yeah.
child star.
And she recently did a 20th year anniversary, so that could have been the headlines for 2 months ago, I think,
Wow.
something like that. It was a big deal. A lot of companies were like posting their mascots with a blonde wig on in honor of the comeback celebration. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, great. So thank you for sharing that. That's just really wonderful. And
Thanks for
continue.
sharing yours.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, you're welcome. It's a new feature, relatively new, but we're
Mhm.
gaining some interesting traction with it. And people do comment back to me on, the different things I say, and
Mhm.
it's kind of semi-humorous the way we talk about it. So it's good. So So let's see, just going through our modular schedule, we don't do everything that we have that's possible for us to do. And so I'm going to skip over a lot of things, but just make a reference to the book that I released in 2022, I think it was. And we've talked about it a lot in the past when it first came out, but it undergirds a lot of the coaching and it's a roadmap for a lot of the actual coaching. And I'd like to say that again, I'm not selling or pitching, nothing wrong with that, but that's not the purpose of here. It's just of what I'm doing here. It's just to give the information about it that you can get the audio version, which is voiced over by a woman. I chose the woman's voice for some reason. I thought it would be, I made it more accessible in some ways, I think, than using my voice. And then we have the Kindle version, and then we have the paperback version. And you get the method I use and how it's structured and how it's paced out. If you want to go deeper on your own with what this is all about in terms of the actual coaching method. And you can find it in the show notes, the link to all of that in the show notes when this podcast is published next week, a week from today, roughly a week from today. And so that's all I'll say about that section. And then getting to one of my favorite parts of what we review is our journey together, right? So the way we started out, Brittany, you and me, even though we've never actually met in person, which I always like to add, um, we started out with me asking you for your help with some worksheets, and you beautified those in the most amazing way. We went from the worksheets to video modules for an online course that I developed. Uh, Also amazing. I mean, when you see your life just, I mean, your work just brought to life, it's like, wow, by somebody as talented as you are. And then the course allowed me to think through and repurpose everything for the book. And then after the book was released, it seemed like it would be good to have a place to talk about all of this stuff. And so I approached you about a podcast somewhat tentatively because I was like, yeah, you don't want to overload Brittany. She might think this is ridiculous and you're doing too much. But anyway, your response was favorable, and here we are uh, doing this video podcast. So we had worked together probably about 2 years before we started the podcast, and then we've been doing the podcast for about 6 years. So it's probably, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we've been doing this for um, for about 8 years, this journey together. And then the last thing I'll say is that, and then turn the mic over to you for uh, uh, letting people know where you are, letting them know more what you do and things like that. But you also are just so efficient and effective at posting everything, right? So you edit our stuff. And so where it needs it, you'll do an intro. I didn't even know what an intro was. You'll do an intro, you'll do an outro. I'm like, okay, what's that? And you like doing all these amazing things to make it more appealing and just more aesthetically amazing. Uh, so you'll do the video, then you'll do the audio podcast version of that, put it in its right location where people can consume that content. And then you have a blog version of all of this that you do, which I'm always amazed at. I go to that and I read it. I'm an avid reader of the blog that came out of this podcast because uh, you always do so. You tweak it in some interesting way that it just doesn't seem dominated by AI or anything. It's interesting. It's like, wow, okay, we said that, we talked about all of that when we were, you know. So anyway, it's just a delightful, miraculous process. The reason I talk about this so much is because, and every time is because it's a central miracle in my content production experience, and to have somebody who is so easy to get along with and just does such an amazing job, and to do this year after year together and to be evolving as your family grows and we learn more about your family and what parts you want to include. It's just an amazing, miraculous experience. And the more we celebrate and are grateful for the miracles we experience, this is part of miracle mindset, the more we have to be grateful for. It's just a virtuous cycle. So over to you, Brittany, for anything that you want to talk about in terms of your work and where people can find you and things like that.
Thank you, Dave, for that shout out and all the compliments on my work. I thought it was funny how earlier you said that ChatGPT was trying to convince you to modify your title. And I don't know if everyone's having the same experience, but I've also been through that
Is that
conversation.
right? Okay.
Yeah, so it makes me like think, oh, I'm not just a designer, I'm more of a consultant, actually. And it's the same thing. It made me laugh, made me chuckle.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
it's
he's trying to
ChatGPT is,
elevate us, or he's
yeah,
just gassing us up, maybe. Who
yeah,
knows?
exactly. They say that they do that. They're
It works.
yeah,
We have a good relationship. Yeah. I appreciate
right.
chat. So yeah, I do a lot of things, as Dave has learned, including co-hosting this podcast. But I guess I could say I'm into some strategy, a little bit of consulting, all related to branding and media, and now a little bit of AI and things like that. So I'm trying to dive more into the AI and trying to figure out what what is less trend and hype based and more of the lasting implications of AI. Because I started talking a lot about AI video production, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be a lasting trend. Still not sure about it. A lot of people don't like it or feel conflicted about it. I'm seeing more and more of that. So I'm not going to go with all my eggs in that basket. But anyway, if you're curious about what I'm doing at the moment, my YouTube channel is a good reflection of that. And anyone can go on my channel, which is called Brittany New, my maiden name. And I also have a website, brittanynew.com, and you can see what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And I'll probably be launching a new website soon, which is nice. In addition to the chat GPT kind of conversations, AI has also gotten so much better with helping code websites. So that's a new thing I'm learning now and working on, and just completely generating anything I can dream up with actual functional code without knowing how to code. So I'm using that for my next website. But yeah, so I think that's enough about me, and I'm eager to hear what's next in our preliminaries, and if we're getting to the lesson that might be next. Hmm.
Sure. And I'm eager to jump to that as well. Just a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Are you with the redoing of your websites
Hmm. Hmm.
or your website or
Hmm.
doing another website? I think is
Yes.
more accurate. Are you delving into Claude and all of that at all, or is it still chat?
I haven't used Claude. I've been using Google AI Studio. I feel like if I focus on one tool at a time, then I can really master it. My husband
Right,
is getting into the Claude stuff, and the really it's really advanced, the things that Claude can do, because I've seen it and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to open that can of
right,
worms
right.
quite yet.
Yeah,
But Google AI Studio is really intuitive, and it's in the Google ecosystem. So if you have a Gmail account, you can just start coding like in seconds. It's crazy.
interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, the reason I ask you is because I'm always looking at ways to optimize the
Hmm.
websites I have. I've got three different websites with three different sort of directions. It feels like it'll be a good idea at some point to pull it all together. And I
Hmm.
was checking with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is like, "Well, I'll give you the instructions for what you can do." I'm like, "No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm
Yeah.
looking for I give you the website and you just redo it for me,
Yeah.
And I
No,
think,
I have to say it is a lot of work, and it's even in a way, we're getting so off topic here, but it's
but no,
even more
it's yeah.
work. It's even more work than the traditional way, because when you're using prompts, it's conversation based. So you also don't know the limitations. You like want to make a lot of little changes, and then it misses one, and you're like,
Right.
okay. So then it's
Yeah.
not like you're doing it yourself. It's like working with a designer. Actually, it's probably
Hmm.
more like that. So sometimes if I'm the designer, I'm used to being able to execute things in real time, but now the AI is the designer. So in your case, yeah, I think it's easier to start from scratch and to like basically have a very open mind and start from scratch, or a very specific prompt in mind. But migrating things is going to be a little challenging, I think.
Yeah, it's that's kind of a taste. People use the singularity or when that these AIs start thinking like human beings and in a complete way. And I'm like, yeah, my big next test is when I give you my website, you can redo it and
Yeah,
make
it's
it
not there
shorter,
yet.
simpler, and more aesthetically pleasing and more up to contemporary without a whole lot of what you were
Yeah.
saying, right? But again, that might be quite a ways off, or if at all, possible. But I like what you just said. Very helpful, very helpful. So,
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get back on track. Although I mean I like these little excursions, but we're going we're going to the section of the text from ACIM, A Course in Miracles, that we're using today. So the text is section 14, um, uh, and then within that there's section 5. Excuse me, it's chapter 14, I should say. Then within that is section 5, and then paragraphs 1 through 11. Um, and the heading of that chapter is the Circle of Atonement. The Circle of Atonement. And again, I'm confusing things because it's not the heading of chapter 14. It's the heading of the section 5, I should say. Keep my terms straight here. So chapter 14, section 5 is called Circle of Atonement. And we're looking at paragraphs 1 to 11. And I'm just giving a flavor of what's in there because, again, that's the main intention we have with these programs, is to give a flavor of what's in there. And if somebody has an interest to go deeper, there are all kinds of free resources online. acim.org is a good place. You can get the lessons, you can get the text, you can get pretty much everything there if you want to go deeper with it all. And then this is not for everybody too, either. You can get a little bit each time from what we do, and it might be just enough, or it might motivate you to go deeper with it if that's what you want. But there are so many different paths in life, which is a big thing I stand on and we stand on in this podcast. It's like there isn't just one way to travel. Everyone has a different path, slightly different tweaks, even if you're doing a course in miracles. So here we go. Section 1, I'll just read a little bit of section 1 to get us going. And I'll say quickly on the way to doing that today's guidance that we get from A Course in Miracles falls into two parts. The first part is for us to cling, connect with, join with God more powerfully, and then out of that connection to envision ourselves in a circle of atonement in which we include everybody else, right? So we'll see why that's interesting, I think, and why that can be challenging as well. So here we go. The only part of your mind, this is paragraph 1, section 4, chapter 14. The only part of your mind that has reality is the part that links you still with God. Would you have all of it transformed into a radiant message of God's love to share with all the lonely ones who have denied God? God makes this possible. Would you deny God's yearning to be known? You yearn for God as God for you. This is forever changeless. Accept then the immutable, leave the world of death behind, and return quietly to heaven. There is nothing of value here, and everything of value there. Listen to the Holy Spirit and to God through God. God speaks of you to you. There is no guilt in you, for God is blessed in God's child as the child is blessed in God. All right, so that's setting the tone of what I was describing as a rededication to connection with the divine inside of us and heaven inside of us, and that everything else that is out there in the field of perception, as much as we might love it and be dedicated to it, and it's important to us, family, friends, nation, whatever it is, that it's all an illusion at the end of the day, right? Doesn't mean we shouldn't be responsible, but it means we have a priority order. The internal connection to the divine first, and many may already understand this very well from different traditions, and then out of that process, to be reconnecting with all the good things of God and heaven and eternal life and overcoming death. They were all in that passage. And then we'll see how this all leads to peace in certain selected passages that come subsequently. So that was paragraph 1, just to set the stage. God first, God first, God first. Not giving into any of the seductions, the illusions, and so on. Then the second part, sort of, it starts slightly before this, but I just want to get a few of the peace vibes in here. So paragraph 9 says, Blessed are you. So I've jumped from 1 to 9 with all that in between that builds the case quite carefully and elaborately. Uh, in paragraph 9, it says, Blessed are you who teach with me. Our power comes not of us, but of God, our heavenly parent. In guiltlessness, we know God as God knows us guiltless. I stand within the circle. This is Jesus now talking. We've covered this before. Jesus is the one doing the coaching through A Course in Miracles, and almost everything in there is attributable to Jesus speaking. Uh, I stand within the circle calling you to peace. Teach peace with me and stand with me on holy ground. Remember, for everyone, your Father's power that he has given him. Again, in other words, God has this power inside for all of us. Believe not that you cannot teach God's perfect peace. This is so powerful. In other words, believe that you can teach God's perfect peace. Don't believe that you can't teach it. Stand not outside, but join with me within that circle of atonement. Fail not the only purpose to which my teaching calls you. Restore to his children as God created them by teaching them God's innocence. So atonement basically means innocence, right? That's what it's amplifying. But here Jesus is saying, okay, making the transition now to accepting your guiltlessness. There's nothing that we've ever done or thought or said that leaves the taint of guilt on us if we hold it through atonement. And atonement in the Course is not Jesus dying on the cross. The Course is very emphatic about the fact that the blood sacrifice achieved nothing in and of itself. And this is important because in Reformed theology and Christian theology, theology of the cross, the sacrifice is very important, the blood atonement. Course in Miracles takes a completely different view. And just as a quick little footnote, what Jesus says about his death is that the only reason that the death was important was so that the resurrection could happen. And that the resurrection shows that God is all about love and life and not about punishment. It wasn't to punish Jesus. Those were people who were caught in the ego who tried to kill him. It has nothing to do with the sacrifice that God accepts. Again, don't mean to be controversial here, but I just want to be clear. So when we talk about atonement, it has the vibe of sacrifice and Day of Atonement and Lamb of Atonement and things like that. But Jesus is reconfiguring it to mean that it completely, without blood sacrifice, neutralizes our guilt because of God's love. So just wanted to get all of that out there. So again, the sequence here is we accept atonement for ourselves. We understand how blessed we are, how fortunate we are, how grateful we are. And then in this circle of atonement that Jesus is encouraging us to envision, we include everybody else who's ever lived, right? So just one more thing, and then I'll be done with this, and I'll check in with you again, Brittany. So, okay, it says in paragraph 10, the crucifixion. Oh, here I went on and on about it. Now I could have just read it, I suppose, but here we go. The crucifixion had no part. This is paragraph 10. The crucifixion had no part in the atonement. Only the resurrection became my part in it. That is the symbol of the release from guilt by guiltlessness. Whom you perceive as guilty, you would crucify. Yet you restore guiltlessness to whomever you see as guiltless. Crucifixion is always the ego's aim. It sees everyone as guilty, and by its condemnation, it would kill. The Holy Spirit sees only guiltlessness, and in the Holy Spirit's gentleness, the Holy Spirit would release from fear and reestablish the reign of love. The power of love is in God's gentleness, which is of God, and therefore cannot crucify nor suffer crucifixion. Okay, so again, this contrasts with people who really believe in the justice of God, which is entitled to punishment, right? In the economy of things. So let's just jump to the end here, paragraph 11, and then the last couple of sentences there. Um, Come gladly to the holy circle. This is in sentence 7 of paragraph 11. Come gladly to the holy circle and look out in peace on all who think they are outside of the circle of atonement. Cast no one out, for here's what God seeks along with you. Come, let us join with the person who is on the outside in this holy place of peace, which is for all of us, united as one within the cause of peace. Okay. So that's the end of it. And I guess just in terms of a personal reflection, I was saying to you as we were getting ready, I like to cancel people in my ego. I'm like, if somebody annoys me, I'm like, okay, yeah, just there's too much information. I just can't, you know. I'm like, you're done. I'm done with you. Friend, foe, somebody I've known for 50 years, somebody I just met, it doesn't really matter. And I don't say that pridefully. I own it as a flaw. And the ownership of it is the part that I'm sort of patting myself on the back for, that I can say, okay, I have a revenge motive in me, if I'm honest, you know. I want people who've done bad things to suffer. You know, it's just that's my ego. And this section that I just read is saying no. I mean, it's like you can't cancel people in any permanent way and leave them outside of the circle of atonement, or else you'll be stuck out there. A part of you will be stuck out there with them. I didn't quite read that part, but it's in here. So again, it's a cautionary message that if you want to be completely guiltless, then you must have a space inside of you where everybody else is also completely guiltless. Even if there are people temporarily that I can't hang with or deal with, or who are kind of not outside of the circle of atonement, but are outside of my life. You know, like I just, anyway, so it's a bit of a double-edged, finely threaded thing. But over to you, Brittany, for anything that you want to say or ask or encourage our audience with. And
Yeah, that goes along with biblical teaching about forgiving others as you pray, that or your prayers won't be answered. So that completely lines up with that. And in terms of the sacrifice of Christ not being the significant part, it kind of makes sense because every single one of God's children, by being born, is going to be subject to death. But the difference is that even though everyone dies, only one rose again, and that was like the significant point. So yeah, I think that is makes sense. They say he took on the sins of mankind when he died. But yeah, the real beauty is in the resurrection. So that's what Easter is all about. But you would know better the mechanics of it since you studied theology in so much depth. um,
I
yeah.
don't want to cause you to lose any trains of thought that you got
Mhm.
coming. So be quiet for a minute and then I might respond, but go
I
ahead.
was gonna ask if theologically are there debates, discrepancies over that. Some preachers might believe that the death wasn't the significant part and it was the resurrection theologically.
Huge, huge. I mean, this
Okay.
is in terms of traditional Christian theology,
Mhm.
Protestant theology, this would be a heresy. This would be like a wrong teaching.
Mhm, mhm,
It would
mhm,
be and some people on the religious right, evangelical, some fundamentalists would go so far as to say, we've talked about this before, so it's no big shocker or surprise that, oh, this is just a teaching from the devil. You
mhm,
know, it's a
mhm,
demonically inspired channeled teaching that's
mhm,
intended to lead people astray from the true teaching of the church, which is the blood, the blood, the blood, the blood, you know, and pleading the blood, and, you know, which is a term of art, which means that you want to wash in the blood of Jesus because that's what cleans you, that
mhm,
pure sacrifice. And it's a deep thing. And in seminary, I mean, twice over, I think I learned about what's called the forensic approach to Christian theology. Forensic meaning that it's really in God's law court. You know, it's a court of
mhm,
law.
mhm,
And God looks at our record and says, oh, you're a sinner. You
mhm,
totally failed in every way, shape, or form. Ship him off to eternal damnation or hell.
mhm,
And then Jesus says, wait, I am using my sacrifice to
mhm,
bail this person out.
mhm,
I pay the price for the court,
mhm,
and this person is because of the price I paid. So that's called the forensic. It's sort of the criminal.
Hmm.
version of it. And it's so deep. And I think even in Christian theology too, the sacraments and the Eucharist, the celebration of that Eucharist
Hmm.
multiple times a day in
Hmm.
multiple ways, and the rosary and things like that. They're really heavily soaked in this idea. And I'm not casting aspersions. You know, people believe what they want to believe. And I used to believe this for a very long time, of course, as a conventional wannabe Christian potential priest. You know, it's like, okay, you're going to be celebrating the Eucharist for the rest of your life, multiple times every day, probably. So you need to get with the program, my friend. That's what it's taught, you know. But again, the Course says that this is a projection of human cruelty onto God.
Hmm.
God has
Yeah.
no need to punish anything. And you see this very often where people are like, oh, wait, okay, the child born with congenital defects, why is God not doing anything to fix that? You know, God must be really mean and cruel. So a lot of people reject God for acts of perceived cruelty, for not fixing something if he's all powerful, a patriarchal thing. But again, we always try to modify that. But if God is not cruel and is all loving and all knowing and all powerful and all wise, then why, oh, why this long delay with people just suffering? The simple answer is that on some metaphysical level, without blaming the victim, people choose their movie.
Hmm.
And God is like, okay, you chose this movie. If I could change it for you, but you'll be awfully upset with me if I change the movie that you picked, you
Hmm.
know? So again,
Hmm.
that's the simple answer. Um, at the end, it doesn't really answer anything, but it can bring comfort in the idea that God is not deliberately not fixing anything that
Hmm.
we didn't choose, you know?
Hmm.
So, all right, but back to your great question about the theological centeredness of it. Yeah, the Christian church is very full of all kinds of different expressions where for some people it's absolutely not consequential and it's not important. It doesn't matter. Jesus was an ethical, moral teacher. It has nothing to do with atonement or the cross or any of that. And then to some people, it's the blood, the blood, the blood, like I said before. And if you stray from that, then you're suffering from an attack of demons or something. So, all right, over to you for anything else that you want to say in your experience of this or anything else. And then we'll go to we have just a couple more things to finish today. Not in a rush, but yeah,
Hmm.
just,
Yeah, but, this inclusion, this sense of inclusion that sense from the Circle of Atonement, I think whether you're Christian or any other religion or atheist, it kind of brings up that grievances thing that we've talked about in the past and
yes,
releasing those grievances and being able to include everyone in that circle and kind of humbling yourself like we are all unworthy and we are all worthy at the same time. I actually saw a social media post of a mom who was saying controversial, but I teach my kids that they're not special. And the point was, ultimately the point she accidentally made was that everyone's special, which makes you not special. So there
right.
was like, is everyone
Yes,
special or is no one special? Are we
yes,
worthy? Are we all worthy? Are we all unworthy? So there's that. And in that way, we're all having the same experience and we're all having the same option to connect with God, the same invitation, whether or not we accept it and accept that that according to the court system that you said, you have to
yes,
accept Jesus in order to be able to have him represent you in the court. So
yes,
that's the
yes.
part that this course is inviting us to do as well. When it says to leave that behind, there's no value there, and come over here with the light side, the life side. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And so a couple of quick responses to that. So the way the Course puts it, that we're not special, is that we're all equally loved
Mm-hmm.
at the
Mm-hmm.
same peak level. There's not, and we do this with the prodigal child or prodigal son
Yes.
story from the
Yes.
Bible. There's no preferential treatment for anybody. We are all deeply adored and cherished by the one who sort of gave birth to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and then we are special in the sense that Brittany has a mission in the kingdom of God that only Brittany can fulfill. Dave has one that only Dave can fulfill, and so does everybody else. That's what makes us special, but we are all equally special. It's sort of like they say about the elephant, it's like, okay, the trunk and the ears and the foot. I never know what to call the foot, the hoof or whatever it is, but the tail. And it's like we each have a part of the whole elephant. And that part is special, but it's not better than any other part, right? There are images of the body in the Bible too, that the eye can say to the heart, I don't need you. I'm better than you. It's sort of special, but among equals who are all special, with the function that they perform. Okay, that's one thing on that side. And then the other thing, for instance, last thing on this, just to be a bit complete, is that, so for instance, if I have somebody who's a Jewish client, ultra high net worth client, and their family suffered the atrocities directly of the Holocaust, just bad things in the Nazi campaign to eradicate Jews and just treating them abominably, atrociously. The words don't even fully capture it. And then we're talking, and they're like, look, don't even talk to me about God, or don't talk to me about God loves us all. What about my family and the Holocaust? I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to debate, right? But on some level, I do have to take seriously, and I don't want to offend anybody out there, but keeping Hitler, the human being, not the demonically influenced, ego-driven maniac, right? But the human being that God created originally, I have to keep that person in the circle of atonement and then keep all the other stuff and be mindful of the atrocities and of fascism and things like that. So again, we're all going to wrestle with it in different ways, but I hope that makes sense. And that in itself doesn't seem like a cancelable offense to say those things. So back to you, Brittany, for anything else, and then we'll do the headlines and then close out with your calls to action.
Yeah, the Hitler argument does come up every now and then on this show, doesn't it? We don't want
It
to
does.
we don't want to lighten anything he's done, and yeah, would never justify, of course.
No.
But it's important to make this universally applicable, where every single human being, Hitler's not a god, he's not special, he was just a man that had too much power and crazy ideas
Right.
that basically
And did really bad things, like you said, just
yeah.
atrocious things. And we don't agree or co-sign at all. Excuse it.
Mhm.
But back to you. Sorry, don't lose your train of thought.
Yeah, not just ideas, but I mean his ideas had the ability to become actions, whereas a lot of people in the world might have worse ideas but don't have the power to carry them out, or the
Right.
team. So not to say, you know, everyone's capable, absolutely not, but to say that we have to be able to apply the spiritual um, birthright of forgiveness to everyone, because all of us are human. So
Correct.
and that's how loving God is. That's not how loving we as humans are. We don't even have the capacity to forgive or love in our own strength. That's why we have to call on the divine. And I don't really know how else to explain that to someone who doesn't believe in God. I don't know how, because I really just don't feel like I have the strength or the capacity to do some things that I believe God has empowered me to do. How would you reconcile that with someone who needs supernatural strength and doesn't believe in God?
That's a great question. Excellent question. It sort of circles me back to the client who might say, hey, look, you believe what you want.
Mhm,
I really don't hear you excusing Hitler. I hear
mhm,
that you have a faith that says you have to include the human Hitler
mhm,
within that circle of love. You're not a condoning, you're not encouraging. My hatred for what he did was so bad. I'm not down with that. I can't feel it. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, which is that my hatred for people who do bad things in a kind of self-righteous way, way before you get to Hitler. I mean, I'm just frothing at the mouth for their punishment and stuff like that. And I have to rein myself in. Okay, so there's all of that. And then that leads to the answer to your question, which is that the sole responsibility of a miracle worker, this is what the Course says, the sole responsibility is to accept atonement for yourself. And if you accept atonement for yourself, which is you're completely guiltless, you will have no need to see other people as guilty and worthy of being crucified. It all comes from a projection from within. So the easiest way to help other people is to double down on accepting my guiltlessness and then imparting it mentally or telepathically to everybody who I included in that circle. Right? So it's mostly a telepathic kind of, I'm completely guiltless, and so is everybody else, no matter what it looks like in the movie. I don't know how that sounds, but
Yeah, it's counterintuitive to like traditional thinking where it's like the more guiltless I am, the more guilty other people are, which is the ego, the
yes,
malicious ego. So
exactly.
it's a bit of a rewiring, and you have to have abundance. It's the same with the more I receive, the more others receive. Like it's
Correct.
counterintuitive to the physical, but it's true in the metaphysical, and
That's right.
even in the physical to an extent when we
Yes.
open our minds to that. Yeah.
Beautiful question. Beautiful. And it's a bit tricky, but it's power at a distance. And Ho'oponopono does this too, right? I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. As we lift our own sort of very over-programmed, faulty, messy hard drive, as it gets cleaner and cleaner, the whole world raises its vibration, which is kind of the embedded story in It's a Wonderful Life, one of my constant go-tos, right? Where it's like, oh, that city, Bedford Falls, that George Bailey grew up in, where he was constantly doing good for other people, was a city of light compared to if he had had his wish and never been born, as the angel shows him. The place that Bedford Falls was a terrible nightmare. It's one of the scariest scenes in a movie without being horrifying, like a scary, bloody slasher movie. But wow, to be in a city where nobody knows you, nobody, not your mother, not your siblings, not your friends, they don't know you because you were never born. Whoa. Anyway, that helps George Bailey see that every little bit that he did, Ho'oponopono, loving thoughts, to that raises the vibration of the whole thing. So again, we say these things all the time. They're worth repeating. Just like our miracle together. So very good. Over to you for anything from the headlines that you want to share. I'll get my headlines together over here too.
No, to be honest, I don't think I saw a lot on my radar. People are talking about the World Cup, but I'm completely not interested. My neighbors are. My whole neighborhood's full of flags, different countries, and you would think it would be our country in the Netherlands, but there's a
Right.
lot of other countries being represented in the streets here. A
Yeah.
lot of Turkish flags everywhere, and
Wow.
yeah. So I don't have a stake in the game at all. But
It's a
what would
good
you
one
like to
though.
share about it? Mhm.
Yeah, World Cup is a good one. Just before, I'm going to just back up for a second. I forgot to mention the lesson
Mm.
of the exercises, which are
Mm.
just a bunch of lessons around forgiveness work. So for
Okay.
whoever is interested, lesson
Mhm.
23, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. Lesson 46, God, you are the love in which I forgive. Lesson 62, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. Lesson 78, let miracles replace all grievances. And lesson 121, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Each of these is a deep dive in and of itself when we've done the whole theme of the year, which is forgiveness. Uh, I mean, there's so much you can get from that. So I just wanted to put that out there that forgiveness, the way the Course does it, is very different from, oh, you slapped me, it hurt, but I'm letting you off the hook anyway, right? Forgiveness is, I have programming inside of me that I've got to release, which is making me slappable. And again, it's not sort of kicking the victim, blaming the victim, victim shaming. It's not about that. On a metaphysical level, to invoke the phrase you used earlier, it really just says that we're complicit in everything that happens to us, whether we understand that or not. So forgiveness is the releasing of the deep inner guilt that makes us susceptible to bad things happening to us. So back to World Cup, great, great, great one. I didn't even think of that. Oh, I could have had a V8. I didn't even think of that. So that's fantastic on your side. Then I have three other quick headline things. So a judge ruled that Trump has to take his name down off of the Kennedy Center. He can't put his name. Congress is the one that named it after JFK. So Congress is the one that changes the name. He can't do it. So that's created a big stir. We'll see what happens there. Wants to Donald Trump also wants to put his name on the $250 bill, which is an anniversary bill for the 250th anniversary of our country. I mean, some people laud him for wanting to put his name on everything since he's the greatest president ever to them. Other people are disgusted with just the showboating and how much everything is always about him. Anyway, our job when we do this section is really not to get into a debate about it, which is just an endless vicious circle, but it's to bring the whole set of issues on both sides to atonement, right? That's what we were talking about today. We do this, we have this segment on every call, and it's bringing everything that's controversial and problematic out there into the circle of atonement. So it's a real application of our thing. And then the final thing briefly is that my 45th year reunion anniversary of graduation from college was this last weekend. And it was really interesting, as I mentioned to you when we were preparing, it was really interesting to see that I felt included even though I didn't go, because everywhere on the relevant social media groups where the class of 81, Yale 1981, our class is present, people are just putting pictures, and you see your friends and you see these ones, and people are like, Dave, where are you? How come you didn't come? You better show up for the 50th. I'm like, okay, okay. So it was a fun experience. Just citizen journalism, people reporting things in, and so on. So that's it for the headlines on my end. Over to you, Brittany.
Okay, well, yeah, that's so interesting that they had this 45th year reunion, and I'm curious that they chose 45 instead of 50, or in addition to 50. Is it normally
They do
every
every
five
5 years.
years?
Yes,
Yeah,
every five
really?
years. Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
I went to the 25th.
Okay.
And that was a good experience. I was there and present. I didn't have it on my radar. I saw they were preparing. I wasn't really all that involved, uh, and I didn't feel pulled to it. A lot of people you could tell felt pulled to it,
Mhm.
but the 50th I definitely feel pulled to, and it's enough
Okay.
time to prepare for it. And by the way, I'm not saying this is some big giant headline. We talked about this too. It's like it's a personal, more of a personal headline
Mhm.
and milestone that I'm sharing. But yeah, back to you. Great question, by the way.
Okay,
Thank you
every
for
five
asking.
years. That's a wonderful, must be wonderful to keep everyone connected all these years. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
I
they
haven't
were,
gone to any reunions of my college.
is that right? How,
Well,
how
I
many
don't I
years
don't
have,
believe they've had any
okay,
for my class because it was less than 15 years ago, so maybe there would be 20th. I don't know.
okay, okay.
I don't know.
Well, we can compare
Anyhow.
notes as we go, yeah, and see. But again, it's like, and then I was looking at name tags because it's all the reunion years. So I was looking, and there was a 60th year reunion, and there was a
Wow.
65th, and I was looking at those people, and I was like, okay, what can we glean from people who go to their 65th or their 70th or 75th reunion? It's like, okay, I mean, can they still walk? Can they, not to be insulting or anything, but man, there's so much
Yeah,
fun
that's
stuff that people are
interesting.
doing. Yeah. So,
That's so cool.
yeah, it
Very
is.
cool. Yeah, well, I will close this out with a little call to action. So you already gave the prompts in the book for forgiveness exercises, so people can obviously go and check those out and apply those. Or if anyone wants to, just we commonly recommend that people take an inventory of their grievances. You can, instead of, it's not really about grievances that are personally, but just you could kind of draw your circle of atonement and who you want to bring into it, and just kind of include the different groups of people or establishments or whatever that you might not be typically inclined to include in that. So maybe the opposite political party of the one that you subscribe to, or things like that. A side of your family that you're not as close to, things like that. Could just be a good exercise to kind of expand that circle of atonement and make sure we're including everyone. That's just an idea that I've had. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll be thinking about this until our next episode, and I look forward to seeing you guys then.
Excellent. Thank you for that call to action. Very beautifully done. I'll think about it some more too. All the people that I love to cancel. I have a long list of people that I'm my cancelees, like yeah,
Yes.
even this reunion group was somewhat canceled because I was like, oh, they, you can easily feel ignored at times
Mm.
with the different
Mhm.
things, and you've got a point of view you want to express, or, people are more favored than you or whatever. It's like, okay, I don't need all of that if that's
Mhm.
part of what the canceling thoughts can be, but I got a lot of them. I keep track so that I can both be on my guard about the things I don't like. But
Mhm.
this is since I have a big, long, elaborate list of things based on your call to action, I'm going to go back and release everybody
There
into the
you go.
circle of atonement. Yeah, that'll
Great.
be good for me to do. Thank
Great.
you for
Me
that.
too.
Yeah,
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 me
great
too.
call. And we have all kinds of different creative ways, as I mentioned earlier, through you, Brittany, and your skill set, that we're putting out our content. And we've got some newer ways of putting content out on Instagram and TikTok, if those are platforms you like. We're chopping up like the whole hour-long video that we did into, you know, 12 parts or 13 parts or whatever it is that um, the technical person doing that can accommodate. So those are places you can find us too in shorter segments. It's just all over the place. But again, not just randomly trying to be all over the place. We're very structured and strategic and systematic about. I like to think being led by the Spirit, where to put
Mhm.
our different information so it can help people if they're into it. So, Brittany, thank you for a great, 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 great podcast today. Really enjoyed it. Enjoyed being with you and hearing about your life, some in our preliminaries, and also being with our audience again, the people that I know will listen and will invariably comment. We really thank you. I'm very grateful for you.
Yes. Thank
Yeah,
you, everyone watching and listening. And we look forward to bringing you more content on this.
that's right. Bye,
Okay.
everyone. See
Bye,
you in July.
everyone.
Yes.
See you.